Hello, this is Dr. Mears. The last video that you have watched was on statements, connectives, their symbols, and the truth table for the negation, conjunction, and the inclusive and exclusive disjunction, so not and both ors. Today I'm going to be doing examples of how to make truth tables using a combination of those connectives. And so I ended that last video with the 4 types of arguments: contradiction, tautology, a valid argument, and invalid argument. Contradiction, we're going to look for all falses in the last column. Tautology, all trues in the last column. Valid argument, all trues, and invalid argument where there's at least one false. But we have to learn how to set up a truth table and fill it in before we can actually determine what type of argument it is. So this video is going to be going over these examples right here, where we're going to be constructing truth tables for the compound statements. We're going to determine whether each statement is a tautology, a contradiction, or neither. I have some steps here, and I want you to look to see, it says use steps as necessary. So when we use these steps, number 1 says set columns up with P, Q, and R. Sometimes there might not be an R, so we'll just have to set it up with P and R. P and Q. Number 2, insert the negations. Sometimes we might not have negations. So we're going to be using these as necessary. They're just a guide. They're not a rule where you have to use each and every one. So it's just what we need in the problem to do. So we're going to go through these one by one. The first one is going to be P and not P. I'm going to do it on a separate sheet of paper. It would be a good idea if you got a separate sheet of paper as well, because these could be lengthy. So we're going to be doing P and not P. P and not P. Okay, so we have P and not P. So when we set up our truth table, that first step that says use as necessary is set up columns with P, Q, and R. Well, here we just have P. So that's all I'm really going to set it up with is just P. We don't have Q. And under P, because we only have one letter, we just assign values true and false. Step 2 says insert the negations of P, Q, and R. So insert not P, not Q, not R. Again, we just have not P in here, so that's the only one that we need, not P. And now we look to see step 3 says insert parentheses. We have no parentheses, and it says left or right. We don't have any. So the last column, we're just going to put in the original statement. This here is the original statement, which should match up with this last column. So making sure that it does. And that's our last step. Okay, now we can go and fill it out. This is P, which is true. So not P would be not true, which would be false. This is P, which is false. Not false would mean that not P is true. Now we're going to fill out with our conjunction of and here. That's our connective. And remember, both have to be true at the same time for it to be true. Both have to be true at the same time. So let's look. True, false. That is not both true at the same time, so that's false. False, true. That is not both at the same time true, so that's false as well. This here is called this is our last column. Our last column, this should match up with the statement, remember. If our last column are all false, that means that we have a contradiction. So we have defined this argument as a contradiction because all false are in the last column. So last column, all false, we have a contradiction. So that's our first one, P and not P. Let's go on to our second one. Our second one on our paper is not P or not Q. So we're going to go through, we're going to set up our table. So this is the one I'm doing here, not P or not Q. Let's go through. One, we set up our columns. We have P and Q now, so we're going to be setting that up. So here's P, here's Q. We set up P and Q the same way all the time. We have 2 letters, which means we're going to be having 4 choices for each. P always gets 2 trues followed by 2 falses, and Q gets true, false, true, false. Next, step 2 says insert not P, not Q, not R. Let's see what we have to insert it. We do have a not P. We also have a not Q. So we're going to put that in. The third step says insert parentheses. Do we have any parentheses in this original statement? No, we do not, so we do not need that step. It is not necessary. And the last step says last column should be original statement. This is the original statement. We're ready to write it, not P or not Q. So we have to now go back and fill in these three columns so that we can get our argument here. So not P. So the column that we're actually going to be looking at is going to be from this P to not P. So the Q right now we're not going to be looking at. That's why I put my pencil over it. So what we have to do is we have to negate the P. So instead of true, the not of true is going to be false. Again, instead of true, it's going to be false. Instead of false, it will be true. Instead of false, it will be true. So that's how you find the negation of P. This one says we have to negate Q. So what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at Q. So we're going to have to negate the true, and that's going to become false. We're going to negate this false, which is going to become true. True becomes false, and false becomes true. Hopefully after a while of doing these, you will get comfortable. You will see the pattern, the repetitions that happen here. Okay, next we are now on our final column. We have not P or not Q. And the or here is inclusive. I'm going to put a little I. This means one or the other or both for a true value. So one has to be true, the other has to be true, or both have to be true for a true value. So let's see who we're going to be comparing and who we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be going to the not P, which is number 1. That's who we have to look at first. I'm going to go over here, and above not P, I'm going to look at number 1. I'm going to be going to number 2, which is not Q. So I'm going to be going to number 2, which is not Q. So this is how I want my eyes to look at it. I want it to go from P, not P, to not Q, just like it says here. That's why I assign the numbers, and that's why I put my little arrow. So that's how I want my eyes to look, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here. So we're going to be doing the or inclusive, one, the other, or both have to be true. So let's go. So here, false, false. That is definitely false because one or the other or both have to be true. False, true. That is true because this one's true. As long as I have one or two trues, I'm all set. This is true, this is false, so this is true. Both true, absolutely fine. So here we have false, true, true, true. We have this false here, which doesn't make it, it's not a contradiction, it's not a tautology, it's neither. It's actually an invalid argument because we have at least one false, but it's neither a contradiction, which we would need all falses, or a tautology, because we would need all true. So it's neither. So that's number 1 and number 2. On to number 3. Number 3 on our paper is not parentheses P or Q. Ooh, I wonder what this is going to look like. Because for this one, we had not P or not Q. This one we have not parentheses P or Q. So I wonder if it's going to be the same or different. So let's find out. So we're going to make our truth table, P, Q. That is our first step. True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Now, this P is not negated. This entire statement is negated. So we're not going to add in those separate columns like we did before. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to the parentheses. And so that's why I said use the steps as necessary. So we don't actually have a not P. So we're going to have to use the parentheses first. So we have to write down this statement first. So P or Q. Then what we're going to do is write down the initial statement because we're actually going to be negating this one. So we're going to be negating the statement that we just wrote down. So that last one is going to be looking like our original. So it's a little bit different than the one we did before. Okay, let's fill in these two columns. We're going to go from P to Q. So from here to here. This is a or, and this is inclusive, which means one or the other or both. Okay, one has to be true, the other has to be true, or both. So here we have true, true, both true, absolutely fine. True, false, absolutely fine. False, true, absolutely fine. False, false, we can't have, has to be one or the other or both. Okay, now that we have this down, we have to negate it. So all we're doing is we're taking this side and we're going to be negating it. So we're using this, which is this, and negating it. So instead of true, we're now going to go to false. Instead of true, we're going to go to false. True, we're going to go to false. Instead of false, we're going to be going to true. These are not all falses, so it's not a contradiction. These are not all trues, so it's not a tautology, so this is neither. And there's your number 3. Now let's just compare quickly number 2 and number 3. So number 2 is where we did have an or, but this was not P or not Q. And we found where it was false, true, true, true. Here we have not P or Q. Look what happened. False, 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 true. It kind of flipped. So we went from false, true, true, true to false, 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 true. So that's pretty different. These parentheses definitely tell you something different about our argument. So please just keep that in mind as you're doing your do, check, and corrects. Okay, our last and final one, which is number 4 from our sheet. I'm on number 4 right here. Is going to be not P or not, let me start over. Parentheses, P or not Q, or not P and Q. This is going to be a longer table. I'm going to be running through these steps, so let's go. First, we're going to set up P and Q, true, true, false, false. Then we're going to be setting up Q, true, false, true, false. Now it says to set up your negations. We do have a negation of P. We do have a negation of Q. We do have both. Step 3 says insert your parentheses. So I have 2 sets here. We always start with the left one and work to the right, just like we read an English sentence. So I need to put this one down first, P or not Q. Then I need to put down this one second, not P and Q. Once I have those 2 down, I can now write the entire argument down with this connective here. So it's going to be P or not Q, or not P and Q. And that's why I said that it was going to be long. So this is my original, which should match back to the original that they gave me, and it does. Let's go and fill in our negations. So I'm negating P. This is negation of P. So this is going to be false, false, true, true. This is the negation of true. So it's going to be false. This is the negation of Q. So it's going to be false, true, false, true. Now, here we go with our connectives. This is or inclusive. I am going from P, number 1, to not Q. So this is where I'm going to use my numbers. I'm going from P to not Q. So I'm going to be going from this one to this one. So from true to false. The or inclusive means one or the other or both. So I see true, false, that's true. True, true, that's true. False, false cannot happen, so that's false. False, true, that's fine, that's true. Okay, next, I need to go. This is number 3 to number 4, not P to Q. So not P is number 3, which is right here, to not P to Q. So I'm going backwards now. I am now going backwards. So I'm going from 3 to 4. So 3 is not P, 4 is not Q. So I'm going to be going this way. So you have to be careful. Order matters. Let's see what we have to do. This is the connective and, which means both have to be true at the same time. So let's look. False to true, that's false. False to false, that's false. True to true, true at the same time, yes. True to false, that's false. We are almost done. We now need to go 5 to 6. So let's locate 5 and 6. So P or not Q is this. So this is 5. Here we go. This is 6 here. There we go. So we're going from 5 to 6. So this is our last one that we're going from. I love my arrows because it tells me where my eyes need to move. Let's see what connective is going to be given. This is the or, and this is the inclusive or, so one or the other or both. True, false, true. True, false, true. False, true, true. True, false, true. Please notice this last column, all true. When you have all true, it's a tautology. All true, it's a tautology. So this is our first tautology where it's all true. This has been examples with constructing truth tables and determining whether each statement is a tautology, contradiction, or neither. Hope it helped. Please practice. Thank you.